Welcome back to the BBR podcast, Bitch Be Real.
We dive into our realistic experiences with relevant perspectives on personal improvement and character development.
We're bringing you our verbal and written views on healing for a well-rounded approach to growth.
Now that we're all here, let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome.
We're very happy to have you. And welcome back to another episode. This is episode 8, which is kind of crazy because it feels like we started this podcast literally yesterday.
Yeah, we still struggle just as much setting up.
We're going through kind of a phase right now where we're kind of trying to experiment. We're in a very much a learning phase of this podcast, and I think it's healthy, but it's a little bit complicated for like the setting up in the beginning, which is good because we're learning, but right now it's just a little bit frustrating.
Right now it's just a little bit like figuring out our juju, figuring out what it needs to be, but that's okay because I'm excited about the topic.
I'm very excited. In this episode, we're going to be going over our passions. We're very much in a creative, passionate era in both of our lives, in our respective lives right now, which is kind of cool because we're going through all the same things together.
Getting a lust for life.
Regaining that new purpose in life.
Figuring ourselves out.
So this episode is pertaining a lot to that. It's very relevant in both of our lives right now. So we're going to go over how we found our passions, how to spark passion or creativity in your life or in our lives, how we did it. And then action steps / making it a career if that's something that we decide we want to do or if we are pursuing it.
Let's get into it. What's been going on in your life, bestie?
Right now it's a really interesting time. I did lose my job on Friday, which not great, but it gave me kind of another push to like go after actually what I wanted and start taking action more in my passion or career, in like a field that I really enjoy, which is fun. But we've talked about both being in a very creative era, getting out of our comfort zones a little bit with our creativity and our passion.
I don't know. My life has been a little bit funky, but like in a good way. I was really tired for like 3 weeks, and then I was meditating. As I do. Call me a fucking crazy bitch, okay? But I feel like I had a little higher self moment because I've been doing like higher self meditations, and it was just kind of like, calm down. I was like talking to my higher self, and they were just kind of like, do your thing, give yourself forgiveness, like you're gonna get to where you need to be, and everything's gonna be good, everything's gonna be dandy. Just like start exploring new things. And I had already set a goal that in 2024, I wanted to find all my passions, but then I was like, why am I waiting till 2024?
Right.
Why don't I just do it now? So I started trying a few different things, started writing. I debated chopping off my nails to do some pottery.
Big change for you.
Big ass change because I love my nails. And will it happen? I don't know. I think I'm going to try to figure out how to do it with nails. But I want to go try some pottery and painting and drawing again and, like sewing. All the things I did as a kid and I liked to do.
Love that. Healing your inner child.
Yeah, as fuck.
I feel like right now, based on what you've said, you're kind of in like the learning phase, kind of a like decision phase, like just testing new things, testing your limits with things. I'm definitely pretty definite.
Like already in the know?
Yeah, I have a pretty strong understanding of what my passion is and what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so my phase right now is kind of like actually taking action and showing up for myself, because I feel like for a while, I worked a 9 to 5 for a while, and I've always worked for like the man in my jobs, and I have equated a lot of my value as a person to how well I perform at a job for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now I'm in like the phase of life or like a season of life. I don't need that. Like I don't need somebody else's approval. I don't need a boss's approval. I don't need my employee evaluation to be good to find value in myself. In that spot right now where I'm just like trusting myself, trusting my intuition, and rediscovering my value as a human being. Going along with that, I heard this quote recently where I don't remember who said it, or it was just on a podcast recently. The 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why you were born. And I feel like that quote kind of resonated with the energy in this podcast very well, because it literally defines the importance of finding a reason to live, finding your passion, finding your purpose. And that's literally what this podcast is about. Let's get into it.
Let's dive in. First, we're going to get into how we found our passion or our purpose. I've always been a very creative person, especially when I was a child. But then, like a few things happen, life happens, that just falls to the wayside because you've got other things going on. Like when you have to start figuring out how to pay bills and hold a job consistently for the first time, etc. Stuff like that just kind of gets put to the wayside. But I always liked doing pottery and painting, and I was always in art class, like dancing, just doing creative things. And for a long time, I always thought that's what I was going to do, like a creative thing. And then I just kind of lost it and almost like forgot
Mm-hmm.
that I enjoyed doing that stuff. And I don't know, I've always, seen different things of people writing and TV shows and just a bunch of different things and been like, I should do that. But I have horrible grammar. It's my one downfall. It's my one educational downfall.
Mm.
I don't know how to spell shit. I don't know how to use a comma. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I just don't. I moved past it. Just one night, I got the surge to write something. I'm just gonna sit down and try to write something. I wrote something and I liked it and I enjoyed myself. And I was like, okay. Woke up the next morning and I wrote something again. And that night I wrote something. And now I write something every morning and every night as my grounding ritual and the first thing I do to get my day started off right. And I'd always wanted to find them, but I just never carved out time. And I think actually just carving out time to be like, no, this is something I care about, prioritizing it in your life. Because let's be real, if you don't prioritize finding our passions or diving into them, they just get put to the wayside. If it's something you actually care about and you want to pursue, then I feel like you just need to set time aside for it and truly sit down and do it. And if it's really a passion, it won't be that hard to set time aside for it once you start getting into it.
When you said that you kind of always knew that you were interested in these things, I kind of relate to that. I always knew that I would do something creative. Like you said, I've always been a pretty creative person. I grew up painting a lot in my room and just drawing, but I was never really good at it. I was never good at drawing or painting. I just loved doing it. I definitely think that there's something to be learned. If you're passionate about something, even if you're not good at it, practicing it enough so that you do get good at it, that's what makes it a passion.
Yeah.
Like you said about the grammar thing and writing, and also like you said, if it actually is a passion for you, it won't be hard to do it. Going off of that, the thing that you struggle with writing is the grammar part. The part that I struggle with painting is just not being good at painting. I wouldn't say that painting is my passion, but being creative in general has always been something that I've found fun. I always knew that I was going to do something with digital media. I took a lot of classes in high school for not editing, but marketing and, design and stuff like that. And I always knew that I was going to do something in digital media. I guess what sparked my passion is just having some kind of draw to starting a YouTube channel a couple of years ago. And I did that. It didn't really go anywhere. Again, with the not being good at it. I think that I'm good at YouTube. It just hasn't blown up. I'm not saying that it will or that I expect it to, but I genuinely have been creating those videos because I enjoy doing it. I don't even really it used to bother me when I didn't get a lot of views or a video didn't do well or something, but now I'm at the point where it doesn't bother me that much anymore, and I can just create the videos for the sake of creating the videos and just have fun with it. And I think that that's the most important part of having a passion.
That's what a passion really is, because you can be good at something but not be passionate about it, and you can be horrible at something but be passionate about it. Passion isn't really based on whether you're good or not at something. Of course it helps to be good at it, because then it just comes more naturally, and then it's easier to enjoy when you're not oh, I'm not good.
It gives you confidence to continue. And I actually went through a phase recently, a couple of weeks ago, where I didn't know if I was thinking to myself, am I doing this because I actually love doing it, or am I just doing it because I'm good at it? Obviously did some deep thinking and self-reflection and stuff, and I did realize that I love doing what I'm doing, but I think when you surround yourself with people who don't love what you're doing, or they're negative about what you're doing, that has a huge influence on whether you're passionate about something or not.
Yeah.
Just being able to reflect on that. And I do think that validation, a certain level of validation is good from the people you're surrounded with. I don't think it's a necessity necessarily with what you're doing, but I think that it helps a lot when other people are positive about what you're doing. They support you. I recently have been able to take out the people in my life who are negative about what I'm doing and really just lean into the people who are positive. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah. I mean, even with what I'm rediscovering, I really love to do, it is in the back of my head, not a lot of people make money at this. It's very hard to turn something in that creative aspect of making art or written things and capitalizing off of it and making money. That's very hard to do. But then I was just well, I know that I'm going to be a successful person, but at the end of the day, would I be more happy? Like, oh, maybe making a little bit less money than I could in something else, but enjoying it. So I feel like being able to block that out in your head as well of like, oh, I really love doing this, but how am I going to make this a career? How am I going to do it for my whole life? And instead just focusing on it in the moment and be like, I enjoy doing this
Hmm.
and I want to spend my life doing things I enjoy. So let me put no pressure on how this goes or ends up. And if I like doing it, I'm just going to keep doing it.
Right. I think going off of not putting pressure on yourself, it's good to not put pressure on yourself, but still push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone,
Mm.
which I've been practicing a lot recently, just getting into a different realm of video editing and creating and meeting with different people who have given me an opportunity to get out of my comfort zone with it. And I feel like you can't truly grow your skills, especially in your passion, without learning from it and like getting out of your comfort zone.
Definitely takes practice and like discipline. Discipline, but not pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like discipline to do it and practice it. And I'm going to buy a bunch of little artsy things. Nervous because, like, oh, I don't know a lot about it. And at the end of the day, putting time and effort into pursuing it without putting pressure.
At the end of the day, if it's something that truly makes you happy, you won't need to make money from it to make it a sustainable activity. Our second topic, how to spark passion or creativity. The things that we did, the action steps that we took to figure out what our passion was.
Yeah. Organically or purposefully, things we did that sparked our creativity or just like lit the little flame into being like, maybe I should look into doing this. And oh, I enjoy doing this. One of my biggest points of inspiration in my entire life, whether I'm really proud to say it or not, is Sex in the City. It was what I grew up watching with my mom. It's what I idolized. I mean, it was like badass bitches in New York City having cool jobs, hooking up with dudes in clubs and perfect fashion and like, couture apartments and just like everything I wanted from my life has been mainly inspired by that. Like all my main goals, they accomplished in Sex and the City. It's like, okay, yeah, that might be like a really trivial thing. Like it's not even real. It's a TV show. But at the end of the day, it was something that I was drawn towards and was like, I would be happy if my life turned out like that. Carrie was a writer. She wrote the column in the newspaper, and that's what it's all based off of is her column. And I was like, it would just be cool to write a column. Like it would just be cool. If I want to do that, why don't I just do that? If I want to move to New York City, why don't I just move to New York City? It doesn't have to be some deep thing.
Which is like, I feel like there's such a stigma around that. Like you have to, the way that you find your passion is so, or like the way that you get inspiration is so like this like crazy thing. Like you need a fucking sign from God to do it. But
Yeah.
like sometimes you literally just are inspired by a damn TV show and you go and do it. Like,
yeah, and you're like, their life looks cool.
right.
Let me try to make my life
Whether
look
it's
like
real
that.
or not, genuinely, a lot of the people that we find inspiration from who are real people, their lives on the internet or like what they're putting out there isn't necessarily 100% real.
Yeah.
So you can get inspiration from whatever. I feel like something similar that I get inspiration from watching other people's content. I followed this girl recently she lives in LA and she is a videographer. She basically like dropped her 9 to 5 a couple years ago and just like went full force into a media company, her own media company, and she like met this really cool director, told her entire story. Her Instagram is J Cortez Media, but she does a lot of like sports edits for like high school football teams and stuff like that. Just came across one of her videos one time and I was like, I want to do that. Like I feel like I could do that. Is it something that I would want to completely focus my brand on? I don't know. Like I don't know if I just only want to do like sports media, but I do think that it's like I have newly discovered like within the past week that I am capable of doing that. So I take inspiration from her mainly right now. I think that the best way to get inspiration is not to copy somebody, but see something and it sparks creativity or sparks inspiration within yourself to create your own version of it and making it just slightly different, still kind of trendy, but like creating your own version of something.
I also just feel like meditating in general is one of my favorite ways to spark creativity or just sitting in silence and being alone, not going out and not doing a bunch of things. Right now, I'm just in a phase of my life where I'm prioritizing just being with myself. When I come home, I'm trying to stay off my phone. I'm not, actively pursuing relationships or anything like that. I'm just kind of in my own little solitude, almost like building up my creativity because I didn't have it for a long time. I feel like doing things to nurture myself and nurture my creativity just by myself.
I think it's just setting aside time for yourself. One of the most important things you can do at our age, especially if you're actively trying to find your passion, is just to spend time alone, like you said, and really get to know yourself.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like it's impossible to even attempt to say that you have a passion without actually knowing yourself in its entirety.
Yeah.
Like, knowing what bothers you, knowing what makes you happy, knowing the type of person you want to be, setting aside time to actually understand and know yourself completely. That doesn't mean like shutting out people. Solitude, I feel like we should define that. It doesn't have to be an all-encompassing
Yeah.
solitude like all the time.
Like you never see anyone, you never pick up your phone, like you sit in complete silence just
Right.
by like that's not what it is.
It's more about like setting aside this specific time where you're like, okay, I'm going to spend this entire day by myself. I'm not going to be influenced by anybody, which is another big thing. It's hard to understand yourself when you're constantly influenced by, in the
Yeah.
world that we live in right now, it's nearly impossible to pick up your phone, go to the grocery store, walk down the street without somehow being influenced by somebody else, because that is we live in an influencer's world right now, which is good sometimes. But it becomes very easy for you to not understand what you want, be only taking inspiration from other people. If you spend time alone, you can create your own inspiration
Yeah.
and create your own thoughts.
You're almost forced to.
Mm-hmm.
And this may not work for everybody, but you know, those like cringy motivational people that are like, move in silence. Don't
Yeah.
tell nobody what you're working
Like
on.
those Instagram videos of
Yeah.
like the goat king or something like
Yeah.
that, mindset goats or
Yeah,
something.
and he's like, work in silence, work behind the scenes. Don't tell him what you're working on.
Mhm.
Like, keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody what you're working on until it's something for sure and you've already accomplished something in it. To me, I've been trying to do that more. This is something I really like. And I've sent you like a few things I've wrote, you know, little brain thoughts is what like I've been texting you, and it's just little things I've wrote, but some of them I'm like, okay, I'm just like writing this for myself, and like I'm not gonna, you know, overly talk about what I'm doing just because I want to make sure I'm like doing it for me and not for the external validation of others. You can show somebody what you're doing, and whether you know it or not, just their response of, oh, that's good, or oh, I think you could change this, or that's really cool, but why aren't you doing this? Even if they don't mean it in a bad way,
Mm-hmm.
just those little things can even make you think in a different way. And you almost start doing it if you overshare and get too many opinions on it for other people, or at least I feel like I can do that. So keeping it kind of to myself and being selective with what I share, and, and trying to not taking what people say about what I'm doing too much to heart, kind of taking it with a grain of salt and not overly focusing on it. If I like what I'm doing, I'm just going to keep doing it.
I love that. Very good mindset to have around this whole thing.
Something we've already touched on just a little bit, but taking action and thinking about if you want to turn it into a career, trying to decide if this is a passion you'd like to keep just as a passion, is like something you like to do for fun, or do you want to turn it into something that you do for a career and you make money at it and set this as a more professional thing?
Personally, think that my biggest passion, I do want to turn into a career, and I have already started taking the action steps to pursue it as a career, you know, meeting up with mentors and, like I said, getting out of my comfort zone, just creating more opportunities for myself to grow in the space. I think that pretty much decided for a long time that this was something that I definitely did want to do as a career. I think I established that when I started my YouTube channel, that I had the intention of making something in that area a career of mine. But I think deciding whether or not you want to make it a career is thinking to yourself and really doing that deep work. And can I do this every single day for my entire life and make it sustainable? And will I still be happy doing it?
Yeah.
And I feel like you can trial that. You can trial and error that. You can do it every single day for a week or something. And if you kind of lose interest in it, you know, you're like really burnt out, or if it's like getting too hard or you're putting too much effort, that would probably be a good way to decide whether or not you want to do it long term every day for the rest of your life.
For me, I'm much more in the like still fully developing my passion and figuring them all out and what's certainly a passion, what's something I just like doing. I'm just trying to put no pressure on myself. Like I think that's really important, especially when you're figuring it out. Some things that you write, you might really enjoy writing, but realistically, career wise, is it something that would easily flow into a money source? Sometimes yes, but sometimes no. And putting the pressure on yourself to develop your writing or your painting or your pottery or whatever you want to do into something that can be monetized a different route than you might go if you just do it with no pressure. Like my writing could change styles because this is something that would fit better in a book or a newspaper column or something that's sold. But the writing I'm doing right now is just kind of like, this is what I want to write. This is what is, sparking my interest to write about right now in the style that I'm not even sure is an actual fucking style. And like that is what I want to do so that eventually it does either turn into an actual style or I just make my own style and say, this is my style and this is how I'm going to do it. And at the end of the day, that will make it more sustainable for a career because you're not going to be putting any pressure on yourself. You're still going to make something out of what you actually want to do.
I agree. And going off of that, I think that it's also important to have balance because obviously, especially in a creative space, like there are certain things that people want that people place a little bit more value on. And while I do think that like paving your own path and creating your own new style is very valuable. But I think that a way to make this sustainable, if you do want to monetize it, if you go down that path, set aside time once again for doing things for yourself. Like you can do the things that people want to pay for that you can monetize. And then also, if it's something that you truly have a passion for, you set aside the time to create your own things just for yourself. I think that would help in doing both, creating a sustainable passion, sustainable career that you can monetize, but also making sure that you don't lose yourself in your own work.
That's just going to come with the territory of making money from something and turning it into a career. But until you reach the point where you want to do that, don't let other people influence you at all because it's just for you at this point. Okay.
That is everything that we have, but we are starting a new segment to do a quote of the week. And we're going to have fun with it.
Yeah. Mine's Oprah. She said, passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you.
Love it. Stand up, gal. Mine is from Wanda Skies. If you feel like there's something out there that you're supposed to be doing, if you have a passion for it, then stop wishing and just do it. Like Nike. Just fucking do it.
Shaq LaBeouf.
Who?
The guy that's like, just do it. I'll show it to you and you'll know what I'm talking about.
That is the end of the passion episode. We hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave us a rate and a review because that would definitely help us out.
You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and blog soon.
Blog coming soon.
Blog coming soon with some of my little writings.
At the BBR pod. You didn't say that part.
At the BBR pod.
Okay, we have you up.
We have you up.
We hope you have a great week.
Have a great week, everybody. Do something creative. Bye.
We love you.
Ya. Bye.